What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Roster Watch Dynasty Show. I'm Cody Carpentier, joined as always by the Trash Man. Last week, no show because we were boots on the ground at the Combine, but we're back this week with a lot of fiery topics, news and notes from the NFL free agency fastly approaching next week. Some guys have been cut, some guys have been signed, some offensive linemen have been signed. Things are happening, and the Dynasty Top 250 up at rosterwatch.com is undertaking some adjustments as we speak, because that's what we do, daily updates when things happen. Trashman, how you doing?
Doing well. Excited about these rumblings and all this scuttlebutt.
It's definitely interesting. Last week during the Combine, when the Stafford stuff came out, a lot of the conversation was obviously heavily driven towards the New York Giants. And then just as when Stafford was initially traded from the Lions to the Rams, kind of came out of nowhere. It's like, whoa, he's actually going back. But here we are. We're like 6 days away from NFL free agency officially opening. We're 4 days away from the negotiation period opening, which is, of course, in my eyes, the beginning of free agency. It's the tampering, legal tampering, which is one of the dumbest terms, in my opinion, for free agency. But we're here, and let me just start with this because this is a fun topic and a fun way to start the show. 20 minutes ago, Tutu Atwell just signed a 1-year, $10 million contract. Tutu Atwell, of all people, not in our Dynasty Top 250 right now, signs a 1-year, $10 million deal. We'll couple this with the Stafford news. He re-signs with the Rams and the expected departure of Cooper Kupp. So GM Les Snead from the Rams was asked what his expectations are. And if there was a scenario in which Cooper Kupp returns to the team next season, he says, in quote, there's a scenario, but when you get into the probabilities, that would be the least likely. I don't want to tell you no today, and then next week he's a Ram. You'll see what happens. So, no Kupp projection. Stafford resigns. We know Puka is there. I like Jordan Whittington. Tutu Atwell, 1 year, $10 million. Is this some sort of prove it deal? Should we entertain putting him in the top 250? I mean, this guy might, I think he's probably losing weight with his upper age. I don't even know if he's 150 pounds anymore.
I mean, he had a season high, a career high in yards last season. 562 yards, 62 catches, I think. 62 targets, I'm sorry. So, it was a banner year for Atwell. I think that they know that Atwell is a playmaker. He's somebody who can stretch the field. I think that they know what they have in Puka Nacua. I mean, that's their new Cooper Kupp. And everything else is just gravy. I mean, I think Tutu Atwell will be, a compliment to Puka's, possession receiver kind of style, stretch the field, maybe some big plays every now and then. I don't expect him to be an every week contributor in fantasy, but he's probably going to be somebody you're going to see in the garbage graph from time to time.
The Rams are picking 26th overall in the 2025 NFL draft. They currently have today 7 picks. 3 of them are in the 6th round. 2 of them are in the 3rd, one's in the 4th, and one's in the 1st. So they pick at 26 and then not again until 90 and 100, where comp picks start to come in. Last year, we heard after the NFL draft that the Rams, among teams, the Rams, Jets, among others, were eyeing Brock Bowers, thinking about taking a Brock Bowers type. In this class, there's Tyler Warren, there's Colston Loveland, 2 high-end tight ends. I think there's probably thought that the Rams could potentially looking at like a Colston Loveland, but with that draft capital, and I would not see the Rams going out and attacking the wide receiver market. I think they currently, well, this was a week ago. A week ago's data that I had written down was at 40 million. That was pre Tutu Atwell signing. That was pre Stafford signing. So I'm sure they're probably, I haven't looked, I'm not going to look it up while I'm talking, but sub 20 million in cap right now. I don't think they're going to go out and sign anybody worth a note. I wouldn't expect them to draft anybody worth a note at 26 because they need offensive line help. So I feel like Tutu's probably, like you said, going to get an opportunity here in this offense. So he may be a part of my updates in the forward going or in the near future, bumping him up into that top 250. Let's move to Jacksonville. The note and the news coming out of the combine was that their new general manager, Gladstone, first name's blanking right now, but Gladstone, super young guy, super energetic guy coming from the Rams. He's going to basically take this thing and try to mold it similar to the Rams. They have Brian Thomas. Liam Cohen said this offense is going to go through Brian Thomas. The scuttlebutt was that Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram were on the outs. Christian Kirk got cut this week. Evan Ingram projects to be the next in line, opening doors for Brenton Strange. And at the wide receiver position, who else? I don't know. Tet McMillan potentially, things of this nature. Christian Kirk, though, in free agency terms, Trash Man, he sort of feels like he vaults to the top of the food chain again. Like the year that he signed with Jacksonville and got $20 million per year was because the free agent class was sparse. And now when you look at the free agent class with T. Higgins getting the franchise tag in Cincinnati, the Kirk thing kind of feels like it has wheels again. Like the Keenan Allen's out there. I think Diggs is out there, Amari Cooper, Deontay, like this is Christian Kirk, I think has legs. Like is there still some thought there for Dynasty, you think?
I mean, it all depends on where he lands. Yeah, I think there's a chance for him to thrive somewhere else. He's a player who can surprise you really on any given week. But I think there are some good free agents out there, and guys like DK Metcalf's going to get out there. Devontae Adams is going to be out there. I think those. I mean, like, I don't know that Christian Kirk is a guy you want to build your offense around or focus your offense. I mean, run your offense through. Everyone was surprised when he did as well as he did in Jacksonville. When he got there, it was. I mean, anything could happen. I mean, maybe it's shades of. Oh, I'm trying to think. Receiver, San Francisco, several years ago. Was it Brandon something? Who am I thinking of?
Where'd he go? Did he sign?
He went to San Francisco, and his career. I mean, he had 1 or 2 seasons where he just like
Brandon LaFell.
Nah, it wasn't LaFell. I don't know if it was Brandon, but it was a player who had been kind of like a quintessential garbage grab pick who went to San Francisco and just fit right into the role to his role there. I'm going to think of it. I think maybe he played at you. No, he was with the Bills for a while too, I believe. I'll think of it.
It wasn't Anquan Bolden.
No, it wasn't Bolden. It was
he bounced around for.
It was a smaller kind of. I'll think of it, but I think Christian Kirk in the right position, in the right offense could thrive once again. But again, we won't really know until he land somewhere. But I don't necessarily see him as having a leg up on a Devontae Adams or especially not a DK Metcalf. I mean, I see him out there with like a Tyler Lockett. I mean, he's younger than Tyler Lockett, but I think they have a similar kind of skill set. But I think he's out there with some of the more middling to potentially good wide receivers.
So some interesting spots that kind of come to mind when I think of Christian Kirk, what he can do and what he brings to an offense. I think of the Houston Texans, who I'm not even sure if Robert Woods is a free agent right now. He might be. I should probably know that, but he's so far like reserved in my mind that he is a free agent. So he's a UFA right now. Robert Woods is from the Houston Texans, as well as Diggs. We know that Tank Dell's coming off an injury. Houston, I think, is interesting for a Christian Kirk, where I think there's still life there with the Stroud. I think of Denver, a place with Cortland Sutton and speedsters on the outside like Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims.
Maybe it was Marquise Goodwin I was thinking of.
He definitely was in San Francisco for a couple of years.
Yeah. I think that's who I was thinking of.
That sounds like a garbage grab kind of play. What do you think of you put a Christian Kirk in like an offense like Denver with Bo Nix or like Houston with CJ Stroud, where there is an alpha on the outside and expected to have a run game in both spots when the 2025 season opens up?
Well, the thing is,
this year.
The thing is, one thing, and now I'm remembering about Kirk there in Jacksonville and his time there. Um, it was just like it was such a headache because every other week he would do nothing, and then he would pop off for some insane game the next week. And so you never really knew because there was another marquee receiver there in the offense if he was going to get his nut that week. And so like I feel like it could be like that in a place like Houston where it's like where you're just pulling out your hair, wondering if you should put him in your flex that week, in hopes that he would go off, and then maybe he wouldn't. Yeah, so Christian Kirk he's not a player I necessarily want to hang my hat on, off in fantasy, just because like the consistency, I don't know that it's going to be there.
Christian Kirk getting his nut. That's an interesting one that I hadn't really thought of. The way he said that one. Let's go up to the Pacific Northwest. The Seattle Seahawks cut Tyler Lockett yesterday. We're recording here on Thursday, March 6th. They cut him yesterday, and DK Metcalf asks for a trade request, and Jackson Smith-Njigba tweets out, "Hey, yo, what the hell?" Like, he's like, "What's going on here?" And for me, I'm sitting here with the Dynasty rankings, and I'm like, hey, we're juiced up, baby. We got Jackson Smith-Njigba all the way at the top of this wide receiver food chain. Not at the top, but you get the point. He's a top 15 asset overall. We together think he's a top 10 asset at roster watching the Dynasty top 250. But Lockett's gone. There's kind of, I guess, doesn't really matter. He's at the bottom of the top 250. If he goes to the Raiders and Russ goes there, there's probably a little bit of some garbage grab going on there. But DK Metcalf, the trade thoughts here, he's due probably a $28 to $32 million contract. Green Bay's been a team that's brought up, but the idea of DK Metcalf, I guess you can take this two directions. Either direction you want to go, you can go with it. Trashman here is, what is your expectations, a place that you want to see Metcalf go, and or is this just like lift off for the Jackson Smith-Njigba future here in Seattle?
I mean, I don't know if it matters where I want him to go. I mean, DK Metcalf, he wants to be the alpha. That's why he wants out of Seattle. I mean, he knows that the team is making Jackson Smith-Njigba their anchor in the wide receiving core. I think he wants to go somewhere and be an alpha. I don't know. To me, things get muddled in Green Bay.
Yeah.
They already kind of are with the receiving core they have there. I think I might like him. I think I might like him in San Francisco. That could be good.
I don't know if they trade him in division.
I don't see him going to the. I don't
think they trade him in division though.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't see them going. I mean, you just ask where I would like him to.
Yeah,
where I would like him to go. I think Pittsburgh makes some sense, but I don't even know what that quarterback situation is going to be like. I don't know if that's good for Metcalf.
I don't know. Like it's going to be Fields. That's the kind of the reporting we've got,
right? And which I don't know that I understand.
Can you imagine Fields and us having to like deal with Pickens and Metcalf or something, or maybe maybe they trade for each other, but that would be agonizing.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know if there's this perfect landing spot.
What about like the teams that have money, like a Vegas who doesn't have a true outside alpha? They have Bowers. New England. I mean, both these teams have a ton of money. Tennessee.
I don't hate him in New England. I don't hate him in New England at all.
Kind of be a little bit of a dance party, I think, if they could pull it off for a good value, and like they got the money to spend. If they could do that and give Drake May something out there,
right? No, I like New England. Las Vegas, again, there's just so much variability there in that offense right now. I don't really know. It's not really attractive for me. New England, I think, is probably just maybe the perfect storm for fantasy for May and DK Metcalf.
New England has 2 third-round picks, by the way, as well, just for general thought here. They do have 2/3, a fourth, a fifth, 3 sevens. And the general
Yeah, it makes sense that they go for somebody who's tried and true. They've been taking shots on these wide receivers. It's not really panning out for them. I think maybe they go with somebody that they know can produce. So that makes sense there. I mean, I could even see Devontae Adams going there, and that being an interesting
that would definitely be interesting
combination.
They talked about Elliot Wolf talked about the idea that they put too much on. He basically said we put too much on Jalen Polk's plate last year, and that he hopes that by getting them through the entire offseason that I can't remember how he phrased it. It kind of was weird. Like, we're hoping one of these guys kind of makes it through. Essentially was kind of how I took it. Like one of Polk and Javon Baker, which I thought was kind of weird for him to say it that way. And not like, hey, hopefully both of these guys can push through. New England's in a weird spot. They got a ton of cash and enough assets to kind of make a move like this and pay for a DK Metcalf. One more player that's potentially in the trade market. Brandon Ayuk had a hellaciously cryptic Instagram post yesterday.
That wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah, and so here's the words he used in said post. And I quote, "If Yeen worth 100 or better in another city, I'm icy. I ain't got none tucked." Again, none of that makes really the most sense in the world, but basically one of the best I guess you'd call it a translator, an Ayuk translator. I thought this was funny, so I wanted to bring it up. Fitzmagic. Ryan Fitzpatrick makes a tweet today, and he basically says, here's your transcription for this Brandon Ayuk post. He goes, "I will happily translate this for the Niner fans trying to figure this out." And I quote from Ryan
Smart guy.
If you are not worth 100 million or more, then please be quiet. I'm currently visiting another city with lots of jewelry on, but I am not carrying a handgun. To finish Brandon Ayuk's thoughts, don't add too much water and stir it because it will certainly lump up. So, takeaway, receivers being receivers. I was listening to Charles Robinson today from the Yahoo Sports. He was on the radio talking about potential spots for Brandon Ayuk if they were to move on from him. And he circled a multitude of teams. One, Pittsburgh, who we talked about last year in the offseason, heading into the season. He brought up Philadelphia. He brought up Kansas City. I thought those were just maniacal thoughts. And do you think that there's potential here? I mean, I know they just got rid of Deebo Samuel. I guess I forgot to add that to the show sheet today, but Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders this past week. The Brandon Ayuk stuff, though, and couple that with Ricky Pearsall. Do you have any thoughts on the San Francisco wide receiver situation for Dynasty?
I mean, I think I'm more curious about the quarterback situation. Will we get a bounce back season? Rock, I think that Pearsall makes more sense for just the offense running smoothly, and somebody who can be a reliable go-to for quarterback there. I feel like Ayuk, I want him to be a number one receiver. I want him to be that guy. I mean, we've seen him be that guy on occasion, but we've never really seen him have a full season of being a number one receiver and being the alpha. I'm not sure that he can do it now, even with Samuel not on the team anymore. I mean, they're going to get more help.
Yeah, I think Ayuk's good, but he feels like one of these receivers in like this current draft cycle that are just like, he's a good receiver, but he's not like an elite receiver. It's like this whole class to me.
He's like Kirk to me.
That's interesting. So he's like a younger Kirk. He did, of course, sign that extension last summer, 4 years, 120 million. So there's maneuvering that would have to happen there if he's indeed back in the doghouse or looking to depart. But I do think, nonetheless, with the Debo departure, I forgot to write that down, so I'll just address it here. I think that the Ricky Pearsall stuff definitely grows in Dynasty. I'm going to move him up. I can't believe I forgot to write that down. He's a guy we liked a little bit last year from athleticism standpoint. I think he ran a 4.41 at like 195 pounds or something. How about these old guys, these old receivers, Trash Man? These Devontae Adams and Cooper Kupp. I know we talked about Kupp a minute ago. Kupp going to be 32 years old this year. He's right at like the 100 mark in our overall rankings. And then you bring up Adams. Adams is right at 118 overall in the Dynasty Top 250. You can scan that QR code in the top right screen if you're watching here on YouTube, or you can go to RosterWatch.com and get a pro or premium membership if you're listening on podcast. Appreciate you guys all leaving 5-star reviews and liking the show. But Trash Man, guys like Devontae Adams and Cooper Kupp, who we know are talented, but they both look to be in new spots when the 2025 season opens. They're both going to be 32 and 33. Adams, to me, feels like I know that there's talent there, and I know like he can be force-fed the football, but if it's not with Rodgers, is that like?
I mean, I think Adam still has it. I didn't, like he hasn't been injury riddled, which I think is the issue with Kupp. He was arguably the number one receiver on the Jets this past season.
But is that because he's got the talent to do that, or is that because?
I mean, he had Garrett Wilson opposite him.
But Rodgers has a little bit to do with this.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, he was the number one receiver when he was in Vegas too. Like we haven't seen that drop off from him yet.
I'll push back on that too, though, and say that there was no Garrett Wilson in Vegas. Like,
I mean, we're making all these excuses why Devontae Adams is doing well on
when
his
you
team.
When you looked at him in Vegas, it was like there's nothing there, and then Bowers gets there and Adams leaves, and then he goes to the Jets, and it's like, oh, he's got Rodgers, and it kind of, to me, it nukes it. Like I would love.
Then I want him to prove me wrong.
I would love to see him go play with, I don't know, name a team. I'd love to just go see him play somewhere and be like the solo dolo, which I don't think he can do at this age, but
I say a new expansion team, put all the old heads on it, put Russell Wilson at quarterback, have Kupp and Adams out there. Just made like a future Hall of Famer team and just see how they fare against all these young guys,
And you think Adams would be the top of the food chain there? I think that's fair.
I think so.
All right. One more thing. Two more things I got thoughts on. The Cowboys cleared up $56 million in restructures this last week. And I think I want to look up their new cap space because the last time I looked it up, it was not great. Now it's up to $54 million in cap space because they opened up, again, myth. The cap is a myth. They opened up $36 million reworking Dak's deal. So now they have $54 million in cap, whereas literally a week ago on my sheet that I had updated with the free agent monies, Dallas was listed at minus $2 million.
Yeah.
And now they
did a good job there. Wait for them to screw it up.
And now they have $50 million. Is this hey, we need to go out and get ourselves a guard to replace Zach Martin and get ourselves a couple of defenders? Or do you think that this is a potential, like, we can entertain it, DK Metcalf, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams? Like, is this a potential, like, opening the door for a receiver here?
It could be. To me, that's not even their most pressing need, but that would make sense for the Cowboys. It would make things. It would put more butts in the seats. Not that they need it, but I could see them doing something like that. I mean, but they have an alpha in CeeDee Lamb, and they have a good tight end. I could maybe see a Devontae Adams going there, but I mean, but then again, does Devontae Adams want to be the number one wherever he goes? I think that might be part of the conversation? And is that going to be a pain in the butt in the locker room if he doesn't get his on a weekly basis?
I think when you're Adams, and I mean, even Diggs is 32. I think when you're Adams and Diggs and Cup, I think you just got to know what time it is, man. Like, we watched DeAndre Hopkins this last year, who feels like he might be on the verge of
I mean, I would
retirement.
love Cup there, but I think he and Lamb, play
Yeah,
the
yeah,
same
yeah.
part of the field.
Yeah, I think what I'm saying is more like, I think when you get to that age, when you get to that 32, 33, you realize you're not what you once were. You're over the age apex at the position. And when you go in there and like Cut play with Puka last year, he knew what time it was. When these guys are, with Diggs playing with Nico, I think he understood what time it was, even though Stephon Diggs has got a different, he's got that peak wide receiver mentality. But I wonder if like a Diggs or an Adams would acknowledge like Lamb's at his apex. Lamb's what I once was, and I'll be here to be the number 2 to take some heat off of him, and I'll still get mine and potential. I don't know. I just wonder if they'd be willing to take less money, less than $20 million to go do that, and what that does to that offense. I think it only helps Lamb, who's obviously at the top of the dynasty heap,
Yeah.
but I think it's interesting.
I wouldn't hate Adams there.
Well, there's no Rodgers, so we'll get a truth tell on what Adams is.
Yeah, let's see if he can still produce with no Rodgers. I
Last
mean,
thing before we
Rodgers sucked last season, so I mean, like,
fair.
if that's going to be the conduit for him to produce, then I'd love to see what he can do with Dak under center.
Last thing before we get out of here, let's talk about the Bears. And I only wanted to bring this up because it's pertinent to current topic, which the Bears pre-free agency opening signed Jonah Jackson from the Rams and Joe Thuney from the Kansas City Chiefs, 2 interior offensive linemen. Jackson can play center or guard. He played center in Detroit with Ben Johnson like 4 years ago. Joe Thuney can play guard, tackle, wherever. He was there in New England and Kansas City. There's talk in the draft space that this now opens the door, which I wholeheartedly disagree with. It opens the door for the Bears to consider not going O-line or edge, which they also need help with, because I think Montez Sweat had like 5 sacks last year, and instead going running back. And there's mocks that have dropped today, March 6th, with Ashton Jeanty going 10th overall to the Chicago Bears, which, from an offensive standpoint, would be nice, be cool, because they got Rome and they got Moore and they got Kmet and they got a quarterback. You put Jeanty in there, you keep building this offensive lineup. Seems ideal, but you also have Swift under contract and Roschon Johnson, and this is a deep running back class. Swift is, for us in the top 250, just for reference, sitting exactly at 99 in our rankings in one quarterback. Swift is entering age 26, which is incredibly young now that I think about it for him. I feel like he should be like 28. Do you think this would be a mistake if they went Jeanty here? And I don't know what that would mean for Swift or Roschon. I think other than they would just like axe them. But also part of me doesn't, I mean, I don't see Jeanty as a Gibbs type. I see him more as a mix between Gibbs and Montgomery. So I think there's still a door open for Swift to potentially get work here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a mistake in that sense. I think that we've seen 2 running backs thrive on teams in recent history. I mean, we saw Tampa Bay, we see it in Detroit. So I don't think from that perspective, I think it's a mistake if they draft him, they don't get O-line help, because then what's the point? You can't protect your quarterback, you can't protect your running back, or your running backs, which would be in that case. Then that's a mistake. I think it makes sense to get O-line help, and then, like you said, it's a deep running back class. Add a big body back there who can complement Swift. That makes the most sense to me. I don't think it would hamstring the Bears, but I think it would just, the onus would be on them to protect their marquee players at that point.
All right, there it is. That's the Roster Watch Dynasty Show. He's the Trash Man. I'm Cody Carpentier. We're with you every Thursday talking Dynasty. Get the top 250 over at rosterwatch.com. Trash Man, I'm not going to get you out of here without a final take. The final take is everybody knows Ashton Genty is going to be the 101 in Dynasty rookie drafts, but I got 3 landing spots and only 3 landing spots, and you have to pick the best one. Are you taking Ashton Genty to the Jets at 7 with Breece Hall and Braylon Allen? Are you taking Ashton Genty to the Saints with Alvin Kamara? Or are you taking Ashton Genty to the Bears with DeAndre Swift and Roschon Johnson? You get 1 landing spot. Where are you taking it?
Okay, so it would be the Bears. They have the best offense.
This is Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to Roster Watch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening to Roster Watch.